What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves, physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them, visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies? Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Moore Show, which is sponsored by my website, channeling.com. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Kathy McGranahan. Now, Kathy's roots began in Dayton, Ohio, and in 2016, she found a home and spiritual awakening in Wisconsin. Now, Kathy soon discovered, as our life path unfolds, with our experiences that shape our perception and behaviors, we have choices that we can control, and we create our own reality. Our footsteps of courage to mold the type of life that seeks to bring joy to our soul is in our hands. And as we touch the lives of others by just being in their presence, we are a gift to others just by knowing them. Now, her education includes a Bachelor of Science in Business Management and a paralegal certificate from Capital Law School. Now, her healing abilities include quantum Reiki, mediumship, gazing, soul messages, color symbols, crystal healings, and she's also a death doula and a licensed minister and more. Kathy McGranahan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, you're based in Wisconsin, yep.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where your journey started as well, because you've obviously we've just read off your bio there, and back in the day you were practicing law. Is that right?
I was not practicing law. I worked for attorneys, and we do the work for the attorneys. So it's paralegal.
I'm guessing life was very different back then.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah. What was there much of an interest in the alternative sort of spiritual side at all?
While I was a paralegal, of course, we're always using our intuition when we're handling day-to-day activities, and get a gut feeling. You'll follow that gut feeling. But my transition really occurred when my mom and partnerhood crossed. And my soul contract opened up, and that's when I started doing energy work.
Right. So, what were they sort of one after the other? Were they when they crossed over?
Yeah, they transitioned back in 2008 and then 2009, and then in 12 I became a Reiki Master in March.
What was the sort of pull to do that? What was sort of pulling you to do that then? Do you think?
I started exploring outside the Catholic Church and found a Jesus faith-based spiritual church, met people, and then I ended up connecting with my minister, and she became my Reiki teacher.
And obviously, you've got a background in business management as well.
Yes.
And what if your colleagues, from that background, if they saw you now, would they recognize you, do you think?
A few I'm still in contact with because they actually have skills as well. And you always have a soul group that you end up traveling with and either stay in touch with, or your contracts have ended and you've moved on to something new.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What has really sort of, helped you? What have you been reading on your journey that, is there someone that came into your journey that really pushed you forward in this work, or some books that you've read or something?
The most influential teacher was Herb Stevenson. He's based in Ohio, and a lot of his work deals with trauma with the Native American teachings. So all about being in your body and then grounding yourself to the earth and then sitting with what needs to heal and healing, and then spirit works through you, and through that, then all the other gifts and skills you have can open up in a way when you're ready.
If I was to say to you then, what is an important message of your work right now? What would that be?
That it's okay to not know.
And just go with the flow.
Yes, because that's how you experience things, is by just seeing what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of clients come to you then? Because obviously I know we're going to get into what you do and everything else, but what's the sort of average person that comes to you? Because you haven't really gone out there to advertise yourself much, have you, in a sense?
No, it's all by word of mouth mostly. I just did the website a few weeks ago. So, yeah. It's time.
Yeah. It's all about timing, isn't it? And for example, you coming on this show right now is the right timing for for this to happen. And again, just remind us, it's sort of this. So, how many years have you been doing this for? Because it's not been that long, has it? Neither.
Since 2012, a lot more full time since 2012. I left the paralegal profession in 2015 as a full-time worker. I just do it on the side now with little opportunities that come up.
Right. Okay. So really, yeah, you've kind of built this up to where it's now your full-time thing as well. And I mean, it's interesting because obviously with your business background as well, I'm guessing that you can offer those that have businesses, because I mean many people would want to come for a business reading, wouldn't they? In a sense. That you're intuitively able to sort of tune into what's going on with a client, in a sense, from a
Correct.
business perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also started a bakery business here a couple of years ago, doing gluten-free granola. So that adds to my diversity.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. And so, are you working with a team? Would you say is that how this is working for you? Okay, so when a client comes to see you, then how do you know, or have they picked what they want to get from you, in a sense of what particular type of reading they want to get, or do you sort of tune into what you think they need?
Part of what happens is when you actually make an appointment to work with me, things start coming up for you. And then when you actually get here, you know what you're looking for, and we sit and talk and see what comes up and set some intentions, and then it unfolds from there.
Obviously, part of the work that I've been doing for the past couple of years, and has involved in interviewing a lot of channelers as well. Do you think what that part of what you do is sort of brought through you, in a sense?
Yeah, I channel the information. Yes, yes. Because I call it, I use a lot of Native American teachings, so I call them the directions. I can see colors and symbols for what the person is actually needing in their field. I see animal totems, and I see ceremonies that might occur. I also see sacred geometry. I hear messages in different languages. It's all based on basically what that person has asked for on a soul level. Because when you come to see me, your soul is ready for what's next, or figuring out your divine purpose, or healing a deep wound, or gathering a soul piece. It just depends on what you need at that exact moment when you come see me.
Yeah, and I'm guessing as well, obviously where you're based as well, I've been told it's very beautiful, and I'm guessing where you are obviously helps to energize the kind of readings that you're doing right now as well.
Well, yes, because the energy vortexes on this land are also connected to the ones on Wildcat Mountain and Trumpelo Mountain, and of course out to Sedona, and then off to the other grids in Florida as well as the Southwest. So there's a huge energy grid of vortexes that are all connected, and part of that, the vortexes here are part of regeneration. You get deep rest when you come.
Yeah, yeah, and again, you can do this remotely as well. Everything that you do can be done remotely.
Everything's energy, so it doesn't have to be in person. When I started doing the doula work for people transitioning, they never actually physically called me. I heard them this way, and I showed up on the doorstep.
Tell me about that. How yeah, because obviously, did you have to get trained to be a doula? And just for those who may not know what a doula is, just explain that.
Well, there are death doulas that are certified with the steps that are in the legal process, as which is an actual certification itself. The part of the death doula work that I do is on the other realm, when you're trying to leave, and I help with messages that people need to share with their family members that actually need to occur. The first one that I did was for a friend of mine, and her name was Lauren. And when I walked in the door, she said, "About time you got here." She'd been calling me for months, and she was in Ohio, and I'm here, and it took me a while. We spent 4 hours together with a dear friend of mine, Anne Marie, and after that, she checked herself into hospice and was ready to go. She healed what she needed to heal. My friend Carla called me from the ethers from Colorado this time last year. I actually left New Year's Eve and flew out there and stayed for a week to help her transition, and her best friend met me there. And I did some legal stuff for her that her family needed done. But you help on the soul level, what your soul needs to go. The one that was completely remote, a friend of mine's mother was in hospice and was stuck. She started leaving. We spent an hour on the phone. The mother shared all the symbols and messages that she wanted her daughter to have before she left. And part of that was interesting. I spoke to her several weeks later, and I asked her, I said, when did your mom leave? She's like, as soon as you hung up the phone. Because she was blowing her kisses, and she was on this bridge, and the daughter could also see her own images and symbols. And so it was like a symphony with all three of us on the phone, well, so to speak, the mother on the realm, and then us physically on the phone. And I was in my PJs. You know, she was out of the blue. She really needed help. So it's very sacred work. It's not commercial. It's very soulful, deep, honoring of the soul type of calling. Mm.
Absolutely. I mean, how many people have you sort of been there when they've transitioned?
4 that I can recall at this moment while we're talking. So.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, my parents. My dad transitioned this year, too. So, my father as well. So, and my now mother-in-law, she transitioned as well. So, there was like 5 this year. So.
Yeah, and it's, it's something we all have to go through, isn't it, in a sense? And, but when that soul's left that body, you must, you can just see the difference, can't you? People say it, don't they? They just say that it's just not the same person there anymore. It's just a shell.
Correct. We got our little meat suit on, so.
Yeah, a space suit. Yeah, absolutely. And okay, again, I'm just the doula is just obviously one of the things that you do.
Sure.
That there's many more. Just going back to the channeling then. So with the Native American, where is that? Do you think in your bigger picture? Where is that connect? Have you kind of delved into that, where that Native American connections come from?
It's actually my great grandmother's side. She was Cherokee, and the first crystal I ever bought, I went to a jewelry show. And there was a crystal booth, and I bought this crystal actually right here. And I sat on a mound in Columbus, and then I started chanting something, and it scared me, and tears started streaming out of my right eye, and I was just chanting over and over, and I didn't know what was happening. and through some friends of mine, we discovered, I went to a light show where there's a lot of energy workers, and I met this gentleman who's actually in Columbus, Ohio, where I lived at the time. And he went through and spoke all these chants and like, is it this? Is it this? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, how many words is it? I'm like, 6. He's like, what does it start with? I said, I don't know. And he's like, well, how am I supposed to help you? I said, I don't know. And then he handed me a sheet of paper that was the Cherokee welcome song, and tears just streamed out of my eyes. And my great-grandmother Dove, from one of my lifetimes as a Native, came through and gave me all kinds of messages through him. And it was very profound for me, knowing that it was the Cherokee welcome song.
Yeah, and is that the type of land that you're on now as well? Was that Cherokee land?
It's actually, the land here is Black Hawk and several other tribes, because this is the area where the Black Hawk Wars occurred.
Right. Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
We're 22 miles from the Mississippi River.
Now, one of the things that you've been doing for a while, and you can let us know how long you've been doing it, is the quantum Reiki. And just tell us what that does and how that works and how you use it as well for people.
Okay, well, the traditional Reiki, which is Japanese-based, it is that, but in addition to that, the way I see the symbols is actually come from 5th dimension. And I also know when I'm going into different dimensions, I see different symbols, which actually represent what dimension I've gone to help get the information that you need, and I channel it down for you. So it's still Reiki. It's just another level of Reiki.
Yeah, because I mean, there's lots of different levels, I believe, isn't there?
Right.
Yeah. It's a big subject, and so for someone, what is the normal thing someone would come see you for Reiki then? What would be the average kind of thing that people want that type of healing?
Normally, people want to do releasing and have patterns come up to help them break their patterns and to understand their divine path, because they're trying to figure out what their soul wants to do.
Yeah, well, that's a big thing, isn't it? Do people come, sort of moving away from the Reiki for just a second, but is that a general thing where people are trying to figure out what they're here to do? What is their purpose, in a sense?
Yes. And some people who have deep trauma come find me, because normally you're drawn to a healer that has had the same type of experiences that you've had, so that you can help them heal. And so basically, people who've had different types of trauma find me, which is the same type of traumas I've already had and healed.
Isn't that incredible how that works? I hear that more and more and again from different people that, they've gone through that experience and somehow they've just been, drawn to this. It's nothing out of their remit, in a sense. Do you know what I mean?
Correct. Yes. And you're drawn to, and there's more than one healer that can help someone. It's a community of healers that help people.
Yeah.
It's not just one person. Another person doing Reiki could also help you, just as I can. It's whoever you're drawn to. You trust where your soul guides you to. Who do you see?
Yeah, and again, I suppose some people. Yeah. And I suppose some people, I guess it's just about relationships in a sense, isn't it? I mean, is that where your sort of mediumship side comes in, and how does that work as well?
The mediumship, when people want to talk to people on the other side or this side, you do not have to be transitioned in order to speak to someone's higher self and have a conversation.
So when you do, if I was to, get a mediumship reading from yourself, then are you connecting with my higher self in a sense, or?
I'm connecting with the people that you've asked to talk to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And when you go into that state of connecting to that higher self of whoever or whatever it may be, right? Are you sort of just consciously just able to sort of click and you're kind of there, or is there a practice that you do to get to that state?
Actually, it's just, for me, it's such a instantaneous. It's just there. Like the languages, I could just speak them now. I don't have to go in a zone as some people need to. Part of when you've healed and your heart is full and open and loving and kind, because that's where a lot of the channeling comes through, is through your heart. And so for me, it's just because my body's not taken over. Some people who channel, their body's taken over and then they have a different voice. I have a different voice, but my body's not taken over. I just hear it and I speak it.
Yeah, I'm guessing you've gone through your own kind of, you kind of touched on it there, really. You've gone through your own healing process as well. I mean, you couldn't have started this work unless you sort of worked on yourself, I'm guessing.
Yes, and other parts and pieces like an onion layer also come. There's continual healing. It's not, I walk my walk.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a continuous thing. Yeah, it's not like okay, I'm done. You know.
Yeah, there's no done.
Right? No.
Right. Yeah.
It is continuous. There's always something that's going to show up in life, isn't there? That's going to sort of test.
If you're ready to heal it, it shows up.
And in nice ways sometimes, and sometimes in very difficult ways.
Correct, but sometimes that difficult is what makes you pay attention in a way that you would not have before.
Yeah, and sometimes it's having that 2x4, smashed over your head,
Exactly.
or you keep doing it, you keep repeating patterns until you sort of, get to that point.
Exactly. And people can help you with your patterns when you're ready to shift your patterns.
Yeah, because do you get some people that come see you that they say they're ready, but they're not?
Yes, but they know that when they come, and then they have an insight or something occurs for them to be able to do more of that for themselves when they leave, because that's what I'm here to do, is I help you help yourself. I channel the information for you, but you have to be willing to be open to the information that comes.
And if they're not, what's the sort of byproduct of that normally?
They don't show up. So yeah, I gotta reschedule. Okay, and they never reschedule. It's when they're ready, they come.
Yeah. And I know soul messaging, I think I've got it right, is another thing that you've called it. But is that the same thing as mediumship, or is that something a bit different then?
There's language. We use English or whatever language you speak to put words to it, to articulate it. When I speak the languages, at this point, I'm not to interpret what's being said. It's because the energy of the words that the person's soul and heart needs to feel. So words can misconstrue the actual intent of a message in the English language. That's what my guidance has been. And part of the information that I get from other people, because they experience it, they also have shared with me that when I gaze, their ancestral lineage is actually coming through when I gaze and speak the language. So they get what they need to. They feel it down to their soul. So the words, they don't need the words because they feel the energy of what is needed. Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess, do you ever find yourself, in that situation where you're ever questioning yourself, where you're ever like, there's any resistance in yourself with giving a message anytime, or have you kind of worked on that quite a bit? Was that a continuous thing that you work on?
It's just, it's in the flow. Sometimes it's a long message. The longest one I did was like 11 minutes. I recorded it for my sister for her birthday. So it's all a matter of what the information is coming through and what that person is open to and ready for. Right. It can be very short. I've given them in public before, at a grocery store. I mean, if I'm guided to. Yeah. It just depends on the circumstance that's occurring.
And is there symbols that come into those messages sometimes, like color symbols, or is that a separate?
Yeah. Sacred geometry, color symbols. I also see plant medicine. I channel the actual energy of the crystal or the stone or the color. So sometimes sacred geometry symbols come. It's all personalized based on what that person has asked for, up to what I see.
Yeah, so it's really
different rays of color, the different chakras, our subtle chakras, our main chakras. I see symbols inside organs and tissues. It just depends on where the energy needs to go. And then I'm able to remember, which is part of the gift, is writing it down for people of actually what I saw. So that way they'll get their own messages separate from my messages. And there are sometimes where it's interactive and very verbal. It depends on what the person needs.
Do you find sometimes that, after you've done a session that you're like, well, I can't remember what I said, or I don't remember the whole session?
Yes. And when that happens, it's because they're not supposed to know, because they know it and they'll get it in their right timing and it'd be too much for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Some
Yeah.
yeah. So that it's so yeah. You'll get messages sometimes that maybe you're feeling something, but you know it's not the right time for them to maybe hear that message right now. Maybe.
And that's why I wouldn't remember it, because Spirit blocks it from me.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
Because
absolutely it does. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like when you go to someone for messages, you're like, that's all I get? Well, that's all Spirit said could come through for you right now. That makes it understandable a little bit better.
Do you think that we've all got a spirit guide, or I mean that's just one word I'm using there, but do you think there's a group or a team that we all work with individually?
Yes, we do, and we have different guides that come in at different times. We have angels that work with us. We have plant medicine that works with us. We have our animal totems that work with us. We have the different realms of the devas and the fairy realms that do different things. So we all have different levels of help. It's just what we're ready to open up to and accept the help and ask for it. They're sitting there waiting for us to ask for help.
Yeah, they are, and a lot of us don't want to listen, do we?
When we're ready to listen, it comes through. So
yeah,
yeah,
because we all have the ability, don't we, to tune in, but obviously for many reasons we choose not to. I think these subjects have become a bit more mainstream nowadays, where there's the idea that we're okay with reincarnation. I mean that's widely accepted, isn't it? In a sense,
sure. Yeah.
Past life regression, that's becoming a lot more common nowadays. People feel more comfortable with that. And you must have seen a big shift, even with the clients that you've had, with just for the years that you've been doing this as well.
Yes, and each person has a different step in their life. Sometimes they come see me for a little while and they're fine, and I never see them again. And that's the whole point, is for you to heal.
Yeah, but then you do get the people that for whatever reason they're coming back and they've not healed. Now that's not the common, but it does happen.
They have, on some level, and then there's just something else that comes up. That's my belief.
Okay. What's your take on I ask this to many people, but what's your take on why are we here? What is the purpose of having this incarnation?
Well, that's a big one. Why are we here? Well, I'm here because I chose to come and help, and people remember their soul purpose, why they came to the earth for this incarnation. That's my sole purpose in this lifetime, because I've had several exit points that were very profound for me. And the most recent one was in May of 2014. And I was really sad, but I didn't understand why. I was so sad. And all these wonderful things happening around me, but I was still at a very deep level sad. And it came through a friend of mine. I was guided to go to a light show, and the person was next to my friend, and I trusted the person, and I was going to leave the earth in about a week during a surgery, because my soul was not doing what it came to do. Wow. And then I had a few days to decide to stay and do what I'm supposed to do, and within a year I quit the corporate realm.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big decision, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Well, not just financially, but for many reasons. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, obviously, I'm guessing that, you look back now and it's, I'm, very glad that you did that, but there's many of us that would find that difficult to do. Do you know what I mean?
Well, because there was no plan. I had planned and then I didn't plan, then I planned and I didn't plan. And it's like, okay, I had to trust spirit and the universe to help me on my path, and other people to come into my field to help me, who are all part of my growth and coming to consciousness in from what's in a subconscious level, bring it forward and trust it.
Yeah, because we
all get messages. It's trusting the information and creating a protective soul group around you that allows you to trust what you're seeing. You have a conversation like, well, this is what I see after you have a conversation. It's trusting the messages that come through, because there are dark energies that want to mess with your path. But that's their job.
Well, of course it is. Do you find that with some clients that they've listened to something, darker in a sense, that's not for their best interest, and they've,
Well, even when you deal with more heavy energies, I like to call them, there's always a message there. There's a reason that it came. I learned about dark energy when my space was burglarized twice in 30 days. Lots of information there, and learning from that. When it comes, there's always a reason for it when it comes.
And I say this to other people, but there is light within the darkness.
To me, it just is. It's both sides. The yin and yang.
Now, one of the other things that you do is sort of shamanic work as well. And how? Well, for those who may not know, let's just start there. What is the shamanic work that you do, and how did you get started in that as well? What drove you to do that?
Spirit teaches you once you're ready. And as I mentioned before, my teacher in Ohio was the one that he combines the Shawnee and Cherokee tradition, actually, which is what my previous partner was Shawnee. So I was comfortable and I felt safe. And when you are in a place, Spirit actually teaches you. Now I do shamanic work. I am not a shaman.
Mm-hmm.
I can see symbols, the animals, and dark energies and things of that nature, but I am not a shaman. People who call themselves that, I'm not to judge. I don't judge that, but it's part of the gifts as being in this earth plane with my family lineage that I'm just gifted with to share. And when these other languages that I speak is all part of that gift to help that person's soul.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I'm sure that when you do perform those, practices, that it's, been very healing for the people that have received it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, it is. And also the person doing the work is also, it's a give and take. Otherwise, you wouldn't be drawn to that person.
Well, that's a good point. Do you find that the messages, whichever way you're given it, it's also something that you need to hear? It's also healing for you?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Every session you have with someone, there's something for both of you in that session. Otherwise, you wouldn't be together.
Right. So
yeah.
you've taken a lot from this as well, and I see the sign above you, love, as well, and it, is that I suppose that's the answer to most things, isn't it? Love.
Yes, unconditional love
to the oneself and to another as well, because we forget ourselves in that sometimes, don't we?
Yes, and sometimes that's part of the lesson, and then it's a little reminder: self-love first, and then you can share.
I asked you this before, but just going to come back to it. That common thread in people's readings as well right now. What is, if we go to like now, what is the common thing that people are suffering from, do you think?
I don't have a common thread. People with trauma come see me and they're able to break their patterns. So I would say the common thread is people are figuring out their patterns.
Yeah.
And needing to heal and changing their whole life based on healing that pattern.
And you can do that at a younger age, or you can suffer and also go through it at any age, can't you, really? I mean...
Yes. There's no age limit, no.
Yeah. And sometimes, maybe one is not having that issue until a later part in their life as well.
Until they're ready. I was in my early 40s when my gifts started opening. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you was going to say 30s there, but yeah.
Oh, that's very sweet. Yes. No.
No, but for some people though, it does have. Well, it can happen at any age, can't it? But it's not. They say life starts at 40, don't they? They do say that, and they're probably.
And we're using our gifts. We're just not conscious of it. Like when you're very successful in a business or whatever career you're already using and listening to your guides. You're just not differentiating them, and you may never go to a healer because you're already doing your work and what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, that's an interesting point, isn't it? You see I see some of these motivational speakers, not many, but a few, and I'm like, that dude's channeling.
Totally.
that woman is, doing that. They don't even know they're connected. They're doing what we're talking about without using the words of what we're using.
Correct. They're completely in the zone and bringing the information through. And that's why whoever you're drawn to, go.
That is a good point. Yeah, that is a good point. Now, let's not forget as well that you're a licensed minister. And why did you choose to go down that path?
I was drawn to creating sacred ceremonies for weddings and transitions, such as transitioning from the earth plane. I've also do baby blessings. So it just depends on who's drawn to come see me. And it's part of just one of my skill sets that makes me happy. And when my soul's happy, what else do you need?
Well, that's it. Exactly. And you do, you've got the crystals there as well, that obviously you use, but I believe you use tuning forks as well for some sessions.
Yes, I do vibrational things. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how is that working then? That's tuning into some part of, how does that work?
How do you, when am I drawn to use a tuning fork?
Yeah.
It's again an individual session, but someone might want just a vibrational session, and so I use them to either lymph drainage or help with cartilage where they have pain. A lot of people that I see or that I'm drawn to have spinal issues, because your spine is your support, but also the fluid in your spine.
Yeah.
It goes everywhere, just as like in the heart muscle and all the tissue goes everywhere in your body. So a lot of people who come see me have spinal issues, because that is an issue that I've had to choose to heal my whole life.
Really? Right. Okay. And is that ongoing for you? Is it?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because obviously, I'm not a doctor, right? But obviously the spine affects everything, doesn't it? It can affect, and as we get older as well, health is a big issue, isn't it? Well, it can be. Look, anyone can have health issues at any age, but obviously, the body kind of falls apart a little bit, doesn't it, when you get older? And I didn't think of that. Of course, your work is also orientated for that type of healing as well, isn't it?
Yes, because there's always an emotional. That's part of the shamanic work. There's always an emotional component to the disease.
Do you find that really? Yeah.
Yes, because you can heal your physical body, but the emotional portion is in your etheric field, and your etheric field, you have an etheric body, just like you have a physical body. And once you heal the etheric, your physical body can catch up.
Isn't that's so true? I have come across this with other people before, where they have talked about, you're not healing the root cause of the issue, in a sense, when you just.
And that's why it comes back.
That's why it comes back.
Yeah. Or you created something else because you didn't get the message, or you didn't understand what the lesson was based on the emotion that needed to be healed, or the experience, or the trauma. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you find some people are not in tune with their emotions, and they're not listening to that inner voice as they should do?
Well, trauma puts you in a place that is difficult, and so when people come see me, they're in a safe place, and they open up to what they're able to. So.
Yeah, I know you've said this before earlier on the conversations, but I'm just going to reiterate it right now. Is that well, I'll say it this way. No, sometimes, right? Yeah, of course. There's always that deeper knowing. Sometimes when you know what you need to do, right? And you could go along that path of what you feels right, and it could be a destructive path, but it was right at the time.
Correct. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it.
Right.
That's my belief. That is.
Yeah, because when people say, "Oh, I followed my feelings," or "I followed my intuition," and it just I should never have done that, and I'm like, no, you did the right thing. That's exactly what you should have done.
Correct. It's what you were drawn to at the moment, and trusting that, and what comes from it, and having patience and compassion for yourself for what you went through to get to where you are now.
Yeah, and Yeah, and as we've said, some of the lessons that we have to go through is we see it as, oh, why me, or I hate life and all this and everything. But if we just looked at it with different eyes, that it's a blessing. Some of us don't even appreciate what we have, do we? Just the little things.
It's all based on our experience and what's on our field, and sometimes you don't know anything different.
No, it's judgmental what I said there, because sometimes that person that can't do that, honestly, without being in their shoes, you will not know what it's like for them, will you?
Never.
Yeah. What's some of the bigger things that you've learned, on this journey then, that you can maybe share with the audience, some of the things that, just simple things that has helped you along the way?
That's a good one. One of my most profound gifts from the gifts that have come is what we just spoke of, which is the unconditional love and the non-judgment of where someone's at, because their soul needs to experience that in order for them to learn what they need to do on this earth plane for their soul to grow. Who am I to say anything about anyone else?
Yeah, that's so true. And now your website is?
Oh, okay. driftlessdiventures.com.
Okay, and people can obviously contact you there as well. What would you say is the most important message of your work?
To follow what your soul needs and to be kind to yourself, because there are no mistakes.
There are no mistakes. And I just want to add on to top of that as well, because I just remembered what I wrote on your website, is that, we do create our reality in a sense, and we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves, that, this is the reality we created, but we can change it.
Yes, you can change it when you're ready.
When you're ready. And that change may just be a small change sometimes. It may be a small thing. Maybe it's just the way you think.
Exactly, because you create with your words in your field what you draw to yourself. So with those words, if we grew up with a challenging pattern, it takes practice and patience with yourself to change that pattern, because all the words we think and say and have in our head that we don't say out loud, you're creating them to come into your field. And you're like, oh, what I created, well, let me create something different.
Yeah, and we're always so, some of us so quick to blame our childhood and everything else, which, it does have an effect. But, we're still in charge at a certain age, aren't we?
We are responsible for our own growth. We are only responsible for ourselves. Anyone outside you, you're not responsible for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And forgiving as well, that's another big one, isn't it? Learning to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. I know it's ongoing for a lot of people, and I get that, but it's a powerful one, isn't it?
Very much so.
Okay, well, look, Kathy, I just want to say thank you for coming on today and just sharing some of the work that you do. I really do appreciate that as well, and obviously your first interview as well. So thank you for.
It was an honor. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being brave and coming on and doing that. And I wish you all the best with everything you're doing.
Thank you so much.